To order, would you please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for your attendance. It's good to see a large crowd. I would like to introduce a few visitors. First, I'd like to introduce Sharice Teben, the city manager. Sharice is back there. We have two board candidates, Mr. Pete Wild and Bill Hammond, sitting back in the back row. I think that's all the trustee candidates, is it not? And we have Mr. Roger Bloom, editor of the Daily Globe. Roger, glad to have you here. And I want to introduce everybody to Aaron Rumbaugh. He's our camera operator. This is your first go at it, isn't it? Aaron is with our maintenance department, and we appreciate the work you do, Aaron. Thank you. With that, I will now read the Community College mission statement. Dodge City Community College will provide opportunities for high-quality learning and will enhance community and personal development in a student-centered environment. And with that, we will now open the floor for any remarks from the audience. If anyone would like to make a statement, please go to the podium and speak clearly into the microphone. Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the September 20th, 2017, and the special board meeting of October the 4th, 2017. The minutes were distributed to all the Board of Trustees. You've had an opportunity to review them. Do we have any recommendations for corrections to those minutes? If not, I would approve a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second. Moving approval. Moved for approval by Dr. Presley.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Harshberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the minutes are approved. Carla, would you give us a rundown on the additions and deletions to the agenda?
Yes, at your seats tonight, you do have an additional action item. It's item H, request for an outside audit of all federal funds. Also at your seats, you have new business item A, Kansas Attorney General response letter to the Kansas Open Meetings Act complaint. And that's all for tonight.
No revisions to the consent agenda?
No.
Okay. Can I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I move.
Moved by Forrest Jane, seconded by Malone.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we now move to the reports. The first up is the Student Government Association. Vanessa Hernandez, President, will make a presentation.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Mr. Chairperson, and President Nolte. Tonight we start off with early childhood education. Students made individual bags of Play-Doh to give the children in the Children's Corner during the Victory Electric Health Fair. They made over 100 bags of Play-Doh and attached the recipe so families could make their own at home later. The choir club is preparing for several events this semester. Their first concert was held on October 19th in the Little Theater. Tonight, the club will sponsor a movie night. They are in process of raising money for a choir performance trip to Ireland in June. They will be holding more fundraisers throughout the year. Student Nurse Association is doing a fundraiser for Circle of Hope of Dodge City, and they will be selling breast cancer, hot and cold mugs, and pins. Several students attended the Kansas Student Nurse Association State Convention this Saturday in Wichita, Kansas. Student Government Association held their Glow Run last Thursday. They are also in progress of preparing for the Trunk or Treat that will be held in Jackson Hall on October 31st. SGA would also like to make the following statement. We, the Student Government Association, would like to ask the Board of Trustees to endorse the letter of support for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Act, known as DACA, being prepared by the city. The City of Dodge City, Ford County, and USD 443 have already endorsed this letter and plan to present it to Senator Pat Roberts. On behalf of our students, we ask that you help us advocate for those who have come to the United States to make this country great. We have several students on this campus who are DACA recipients and who contribute greatly to the campus identity. Their roles are more than just students. They are mentors, tutors, role models, friends, motivators, and creators. Every student makes this campus whole, and if even just one is missing, we cannot reach our full potential. Thus, we request your support in maintaining our identity and reaching our potential, signed by the Student Government Association Board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vanessa, for the report. For your information, I'm sure you already know this, but the board will address that on item A in the action agenda. Next, we have the coordinator, Lisa Killian, will present the academic tutor of the month. Lisa?
Good evening. I'm here tonight to present the October Tutor of the Month to Hector Cabrera. He is also a soccer player, and so he is not here tonight, but we are going to get his picture with Dr. Nolte tomorrow. So Hector is from Puebla, Mexico. You may have recognized that city. They had a huge earthquake. They were very close to the epicenter. His family is fine, by the way. His parents are Maria, I'm going to butcher this name, Maria del Rosario Viveros Altiera, and Hector M. Cabrera Ramirez is his father. He holds a 3.82 here at the college. He's majoring in business. He is a sophomore. His future plans are to transfer to a D1 soccer program and go pro once he graduates. Besides being a wonderful tutor for us, he's also been on the NJCAA Academic All-American. He's also been on Mexico's national under-19 second division team, and he was a silver medal regional soccer Olympics player. So he's quite a player, and he's quite a tutor. We're happy to have him, and he's a great asset to the ASC. I want to take just a minute. Friday, we are celebrating Tutor Appreciation Week this week, and Friday we are having an open house in the ASC from 1 to 3, and I'd love to see everybody there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the report and express our appreciation for this service. Next, we have Phi Theta Kappa Student of the Month, Professor Brandy Spellbring, Advisor.
Good evening. I have with me Iram Gonzalez. This is yours. I'll let you hold it. Just a moment, let me pull up information. So, even without looking at this, I know I can tell you that Iram is amazing. He is our PTK president. He is such a wonderful leader, and he's going to go on to do wonderful things, I'm sure. He is has a 3.5 GPA, is that right? 3.85, sorry, that's very different. We were whispering over there. This is my first time, so he plans to, he's majoring in criminal justice and plans to work for the FBI one day. His parents are Nancy and Isaias, is that right? Aguirre. And he is also very active in CrossFit, and he's also had his first stripe in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's achieved CrossFit fitness goals, is that right? Is that a thing? Okay. I don't know what that is. And he's a veteran member of the Dodge City Citizens Police Academy. Right? So he's just really an amazing student, and I just can't say enough about Iram.
CrossFit means he works out a lot.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Good job.
At this time, we will have trustee reports. We'll start with Trustee Malone.
Attended the ACCT Congress in Las Vegas late September, and found it to be worthwhile and very educational. That's all I have.
Mr. Harshberger. Floor's Jean.
I do want to add to the student report that we have an outstanding minority student who is the recipient of a grant to attend the annual Biomedical Research Conference for minority students in Phoenix because of her work with the STEM issues, and she received this from her group, and she will have full pay for this conference, and I think it's just tremendous. Her poster presentation is a screen for genetic modifiers of protein phosphatase 1 in Drosophila collective cell migration.
Wow.
Shouldn't she get some kind of an award? I was so proud of that, and I'm particularly concerned that in the United States we are not keeping up with STEM subjects like we should be, because we are way behind the rest of the world. We've done a wonderful job educating our masses, but we have not kept up with the above grade courses, and I'm so pleased that Dodge City Community College has one of those outstanding students. The vocal concert was wonderful, and I enjoyed seeing the messages on the rocks that the student nurses left on the Suicide Week. I thought that was a good project for them to take care of, and also have been reading that the nursing field is being more aggressively filled by males. We have a male instructor, which to me is very special, and a graduate of our own school, pursuing above degrees, and I just believe that we're headed for a new field in the profession of nursing.
Thank you. Trustee Presley.
I, week before last, attended a 3-day leadership conference at the Kansas Leadership Center in Wichita. For anybody that's ever been there or hasn't ever had the opportunity to go there, if the opportunity ever arises, I highly recommend it. It's a great leadership training course. They offer multiple different ones, but it's through the Kansas Leadership Center, which is a state-funded program, and just was a phenomenal experience, a great thing, and I hope to bring a lot of that back to community college. I was there actually in some of my other leadership duties in the state, but I hope to use it in all of our resources and efforts. So, and again, I always want to thank all the nice written reports beforehand. I always appreciate them. I like to read things before, so thank you guys.
I'll echo your report on the reports from the deans. I found that to be very helpful. I too attended the ACCT conference in Las Vegas along with Mr. Malone. I thought the legal seminar was very helpful for some of the issues that we deal with here at Dodge City Community College. We do have an additional report. I want to introduce Dr. Scott Searcy, Director of Distance Education and Accreditation. Dr. Searcy?
If I could, before Dr. Searcy gets started, I just want to...
Well, you may, since you've already
Since I've already
started.
done it, yeah. So, no, I would just like, for those of you that don't know Dr. Searcy, Dr. Searcy comes to us from the Northwest Area Technical College up there in Goodland. He's worked with the Higher Learning Commission for many, many years, has had a lot of experience in preparing colleges for accreditation visits, and quite honestly, he's one of the most knowledgeable people I've interacted with when it comes to HLC requirements. He's been a peer reviewer and different things for HLC before, so again, he's very, very knowledgeable. Given some of the questions and some of the things that have been going around as far as where are we with our accreditation, I just thought it might be nice to have Dr. Searcy come up, just give a brief overview of where we are, and then answer any questions that you guys might have. So with that said, Dr. Searcy.
Appreciate that.
Well, I'll start out by telling you, first of all, about the North Central Association, a little bit about the Higher Learning Commission. Basically, it's a voluntary group that we've joined way back in the 50s, actually, we joined. And it's completely optional. But what do you get from it? We get some prestige because you ascribe to certain standards. You say you want to be a certain type of school that meets certain standards and has certain associations with other schools. So that's really why we do it. As time went on, it first of all helped us get some transfer credit out there. Some other schools would take our credit seriously. It helped into the 60s to help other schools accept our credit and put it on their transcript and say it's part of their degree. When Title IV came along and financial aid started, it became an automatic qualification for financial aid, so it became very much a part of the fabric of the school at that point, because we have a lot of students who receive financial aid. We need that. So basically that's why we got started. It's evolved a lot since then. We're currently an AQUIP school, which is Academic Quality Improvement Projects. And those are things we take on every year as part of moving the school forward to be a better institution and have better learning outcomes for our students. Part of that is we did a systems portfolio, and this was done before I got here. It was actually done and turned in, I don't remember, sometime before this summer, and we got feedback this summer on it. And in traditional times, as an AQUIP school, that would be the last written document and would be the basis for your visit. But we actually have a real advantage because now HLC has decided no, AQUIP schools should also do what's called an assurance argument in the assurance system, where you get to actually make another argument based upon where you are and what evidence you have to show you meet all the criteria for accreditation and all the federal requirements that are listed in federal compliance. That's good for us because we have feedback on our portfolio, and in places where they raised concerns or they maybe weren't convinced by our argument or the evidence we presented, we now have another chance to go through and do some soul searching and say, what is our evidence? What are we doing? What processes do we have in place? What procedures do we have in place? And we're actually discovering that not everything made the report, or there was things that we've been doing that we just didn't even think to list, that now we're going to list in our argument. So to give you a little bit of a timeline, the federal compliance document I expect will be done by December 1st. It will spend at least a month and a half with various people reading it to make sure that we agree that that's what our policies are and that's the best evidence we have that we follow those policies, or maybe there's better. By January 1st, I'll actually have a draft up of the argument, and it'll be based on what's in the system portfolio. It'll be based on ideas that Clark Coker is working on. He's actually providing input of saying, well, here's what we did in the past, or here's something that didn't make the argument that could be really helpful, didn't make the portfolio the first time. So we'll have that ready by January 1st with the idea we will sit with a task force of people and say, is this convincing? Is this our best argument? Is this our best evidence? We will basically go through a process up through about mid-March, by which point we will lock the argument. We will be done waiting for our visit in April. And so that's basically the plan I have in place, and I think we're ahead on all the progress on everything. We've got a lot of things where, you know, we discovered in the transition to the website, the new website, we hadn't got everything in place. Actually, as of today, all but one item is back in place, and that should be done by the end of the week. And these are just the kind of things you have to go through as part of accreditation. Make sure you meet all the standards and do the soul searching you need to make sure you really are in compliance and you really are part of the community and a contributing part of the higher education community. Any questions about that process or the timeline? But I'll give you my opinion. You never know. It's like asking your lawyer, you know, how will we do when we go to court? And it always depends on the jury. It depends on our visiting team. But I feel like we have a very strong argument. Got a lot of good evidence. Got a lot of things where I go, and that's very solid evidence to support us. And typically, if you have a good, solid argument and good evidence, even if they think you're not quite up to the standard they would like, that means they work with you. And often in a very informal way. They say, please fix that and send us a report. Or even just fix it in the next 8 years. And I think there's good reason to believe we can get in that kind of a situation. We did it at Northwest Tech. We went in and everybody was worried, but we worked on it for about 2 years, and actually about a year and a half. And we ended up walking away with no qualifications, just here's your 10-year accreditation and we'll see you in 10 years. So I think we have a good case for our 8-year cycle, and looking forward to it. So if you got any questions.
It sounds like you covered them, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
We're very lucky to have you.
Well, and I appreciate the steps that the administration has taken the last 6 months or so to ensure we're in compliance. With that, we will now move to board action item A, deferred action childhood arrivals, DACA, letter of support. That's City Manager Sharice Teben. Would you think you're going to make the introduction on this?
The letter that you have in front of you is a letter that we have presented to the Chamber, to the EcoDevo Board of Directors, and to a variety of other institutions such as the school board, the hospital. And we wanted to present it to you guys to be able to take this letter as a community letter. What we noticed at a couple events that was held by some of our federal delegation was maybe a little bit of a disconnect on what DACA is to us. And so we wanted to put this letter out there so that they understood that it's very important to us, that this is for our students, for the kids, some of our coworkers. It's a very important piece of legislation because these individuals have no way to get into the immigration system other than to back out, go back to Mexico is my understanding, and then come back in. They were brought over as children, and a lot of them don't know Mexico or the other foreign country that they may be from. So we wanted to make sure they understood the importance that it wasn't just, the ag workers. A lot of times they think it's migrant workers and that's it. That's not necessarily all this impacts. And so we wanted to address it more as a community, to at least look at the DREAM Act or something similar that allows these individuals that have qualified for DACA, which is incredibly difficult to qualify for. And it gives them the opportunity to have a method to get into the immigration system that's a little bit more permanent than just an every 2-year renewal. Right now, President Trump has pushed that back over into Congress's plate and said, you have to get this fixed, or else I'm going to let it go away. If it goes away, that means we have 800,000 people that are now undocumented again. They came out of the shadows and offered all their information, and I'm trying to think if they had to have so many years of education, I believe, through the system. They had to show that they had no felonies, no criminal record. They have to re-verify that every so often. They have to show that they're either in school or gainfully employed, and those types of things that are important that all of us want to see these individuals have too. So they're already doing those steps that we all think is very important for people that are seeking legalization in the U.S. So this is just a process that we're asking for support so they understand that it is a little bigger picture than what I think maybe is being perceived in Washington right now. So be happy to try to answer questions. Terry and Glenn probably know more about the immigration process than I do by far. And Ernesto is my brain guy on this subject, and Melissa and both of them are out of town, so unfortunately you get me. But I can try to.
Do you have any idea how big the area is? We're talking here about Dodge City, Ford County. Are we speaking also for Southwest Kansas?
Well, we're only talking on behalf of us and our position, but yes, it is a national issue.
So somebody else is going to take up for the other areas around us?
Yes. We actually, as the Southwest Kansas Coalition, which is Dodge, Garden, and Liberal, we work together on a lot of these types of issues, and we have presented it in our platform as a regional issue, and so we've all agreed to approach it from that. We wanted to bring it more home just to Dodge City and say, you know, can we get the support of other community members?
Do you have any idea how many we're talking about just in our own area?
Renestor does. I don't have that number with me, I'm sorry, but we do have some numbers on that for Kansas. I'm not sure we do Southwest Kansas though. But it's it's not an insignificant number by any means. So, and you can, well, your school probably had to address it too. I know Jackie at the high school had a lot of proof of the information when they were originally submitting their DACA paperwork, that the school district was incurring a lot of time and expense providing that documentation to their students. So it's not an insignificant number that's in Dodge City, as we would probably all expect.
Who initiated the movement to get the support of Congress as far as this particular letter of support?
As far as us, we put this letter together, but I believe, is it Lindsey Graham? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
It's a bipartisan, DREAM Act is bipartisan. But I know Lindsey Graham is the one of them.
Well, locally, I think.
Locally, yeah, it was just us and then the SKC group.
Well, this is really a humane issue for our students that we have that meet this criteria. And with that, then I would make a motion that the Board of Trustees support the letter, approve the letter of support for DACA.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Malone. Any further discussion?
Yes, a concern. You know, this is really politically lobbied, and I don't know that I can speak for the people of Fort County on this issue. I don't think that's our role. I do not know where Fort County stands on this. I have to separate my personal thoughts from that.
Well, I look at more as an institution position, you know. These students are part of our institution, they're part of our student body. So I think that would be the direction to go
Okay.
on that.
I understand that. I just have a real issue of stepping out and getting into politics as a representative of this school.
Well, like I said, it's more humane than political.
Okay. I can appreciate that.
I would say that I do represent a certain portion of the people of Ford County, and I represent them in a lot of things. This is one, they don't always agree with me, but I think that this is humane. I think it's absolutely necessary that this be done. I hope that it gets bipartisan support in Congress and that these young people who have done nothing wrong are not held political hostages, and that one of these days we'll break the gridlock in Congress and we'll think more about people than we do about parties.
I agree, you know, and really the nexus is with the Congress. The Congress is going to have to resolve this problem. I think the president is forcing them to do that.
I see more reasons to support it than to not support it.
I think most importantly, it meets our mission, which is what I always have to ask myself when you go back on this and say, what's our mission as the trustees and of this college? And we're meeting the mission of our students. And we've invested in those students, and those students have invested in us, and if we can't stand behind them and support them in this, then we're letting them down.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Item B, Dr. John, classroom chair bid, Office Plus of Kansas.
Thank you. One of the things that anyone that knows me knows is very, very important is our student experience and our learning environment. And as I've been walking around through the classrooms, one of the things I've noticed is our chairs are terrible. Not every chair. The ones you guys are sitting in are really nice. But unfortunately, some of our
them are.
classrooms, except that one over there. But some of the classrooms have chairs that were the same style of chairs that I sat in when I was in the second grade. Kind of that hard plastic, and they're just awful. And I always try to go through what our students go through. And so I've had meetings where I've had to sit in those chairs for 10, 15 minutes, and my back hurts and I'm miserable. And our poor students have to sit in there for an hour or more. And so we went through and we have about 400 chairs that need to be replaced. And then we have some tables as well, but because of budgetary reasons, we're going to kind of do this in phases. Well, the first phase, we have 164 chairs. They're just, like I said, the worst of the worst. And so it's going to cost us about $9,200 to replace those 164 chairs. And so I would ask for the board to please approve the $9,200 so that we can get our students some more comfortable chairs to sit in. And then if there's any donors out there that would like to give us some money so I can do it more faster, please contact me. So.
I forget, how many bids did you get on this?
4.
4?
Yep, and this is the low bid.
This is the low bid?
Yep.
Are the chairs adequate? Have you seen them?
Yes, yes. We do have similar chairs that we bought as part of the Title V grant, and being a larger person myself, me and Dean Osmus went and sat in them and put them to work, and they all held up great. So.
Do you agree?
I agree. I can tell you if you have a need, if we do this, and you have a bunch of these really bad chairs that you want to get rid of, contact Ford County, and at least in the courtroom area, they can take them.
Okay, good.
All right, trustees, you heard the staff recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Moved by Forrest Jean, seconded by Presley. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so ordered.
Thank you.
Item C, Vice President Herman, this is a purchase of a 2006 Dodge 250 pickup with a snow blade.
Yes, it's hard to realize it's that time to start thinking about removing snow. We are going to contract with, I think it's DC Sand, and if it's over 2 inches, they're going to automatically come out and remove the snow from the parking lots. It's too big of a job for us for that size of snow. So, but this is going to be for under 2 inches. So, Russ, do you want to go up? Did Ramona, Russ, talk about how we found this? And we have so much obsolete vehicles that are just so old. And we talked to them about also taking some of those as a trade. And I'll let Russ go ahead and talk to you about that.
We looked at the possibility of renting equipment for snow removal, and when I actually got the final numbers, it was higher than what is in the background information. Instead of about $9,200 in rental of equipment, to have it on hand, always available for 4 months of the season, it's going to be somewhere between $11,000 and $12,000. And so we felt like that our purposes would be better served with this equipment that we've come across. This vehicle is in excellent shape. It's let's see if I got a good picture of it here. I guess that's as good as it gets, but it's got a brand new flatbed bed on it. It's got this attachment for the blade to go on it. It's a diesel engine pickup. It's tight. Transmission's in great shape. And it has low mileage on it. And Mr. Kofer's wanting $16,000 for it. And so, but then he saw older vehicles that we were wanting to dispose of, and we're getting, let's see, there's a 1980 GMC pickup. It's a 3/4 ton 4x4. You can't even get a Kelly Blue Book price on it. But we called G&G, and they said that it was worth $1,000, and he's willing to use that trade-in value against the price of the other vehicle. The trade-in value on the Ford, the 1995 Ford F-150, is $1,194, and he has offered $1,200 on that. And then we have a 2002 Pontiac Grand Am that the trade-in value is $274, and he has offered us $700 for that. So then, for a total of $13,100, we will have a pickup that can haul our sand machine that we spread sand with, that will have a blade on the front, and all of our roads on the campus can be cleaned off. All of our, if the snow's not too deep and we have to have somebody else come in, we can get all of our parking lots with that as well. And so we would request that the board would approve this recommendation. Any questions?
Any questions?
Do you know what the Dodge truck, what service it was doing prior?
I don't. Do we know that?
It was hauling golf carts.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
Doug Cover's personal vehicle that he used to pull his golf cart trailer to deliver golf carts with.
So like highway miles?
Yes.
How many miles?
I think I've got it.
200,000 miles is what's on the vehicle.
Is it automatic or?
No, it's a 6-speed.
Okay.
And then, from what I understand, the clutch has recently been rebuilt.
And we're also looking at, this is a diesel engine, so if you have any issues, which has been maintained, he's the second owner, the previous owner bought it new, but our own diesel shop can help us keep it up. And this one will strictly just be used for snow removal, it's not gonna be used for running around town, we'll only use it to haul big trailers if we have a lot to haul. But we feel like it would be a step up from the 1980 sand truck that used to have a blade on it, but it couldn't haul both a sandbox and a blade, so it'll be a step up.
So we're gonna trade in 4 old vehicles, is that right?
3.
3 old vehicles?
We are also trying to make a deal with Calvesta Implement on that white brand tractor. It got to the point that you couldn't get it in reverse, and there's a lot of forward and backward. It wasn't built for that we used it on for snow removal. The diesel technology program they've got it functional, but apparently there's a part in there that needs to be replaced, and it's pretty high dollar maintenance on that. And the equipment would be better used, this equipment would be better used, and we're trying to get that traded in. We might get a substantial amount of money out of that to where it would bring this to almost nothing, but we're still working on that.
Okay, so it doesn't apply to the snowplow though?
No.
No, it doesn't?
No, it does not.
The
Okay.
tractor doesn't have.
So those other 3 vehicles will come off the insurance and?
Yes, and those other vehicles have got high mileage. Actually, I guess that 1980 for a 37-year-old pickup, 53,000 miles isn't a lot of mileage, but then one of them's got 105 on it, and the Grand Am's got 154,000 on it. So, they've served their time, and I think it's time to let them go.
Okay, but you're saying this new pickup will be a serviceable?
We see it to be a serviceable pickup for years to come, and for $13,000, we can get a pickup we can use for years, as opposed to paying $11,000 or $12,000 a year to have equipment here that we can rent for the same purpose.
Okay, now there will be 2 issues here. We're still going to have a contract for heavy snow.
Right, but
Is
that will
that a
be on
contract?
as needed.
As needed.
As needed.
Okay.
It's as needed, and it's, once the snow reaches 2 inches or more, then we're automatically on the list that they will come out, and it will be a per hour charge for removal. And that's fairly standard around town.
Okay. Well, sounds like a good deal.
Trustees, you've heard the staff recommendation. Do we have a motion for approval?
I move.
Moved by Florence Jean, second by
Second.
Trustee Malone. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so ordered. We are now ready for item D, sale of 2002 Bluebird.
He'll be up there a while.
Okay. He's got to pick up his paperwork. I guess it was maybe 3 months ago that they came to me and said that the Bluebird was no longer road safe for our students. And so we had to take it offline, and we had football facing us, and each trip that we made for football was going to cost us $5,000 a trip to lease a bus. So with that, I will tell you that we got, well, Russ, just go ahead and kind of give them back, Brad. and-
Was that the highway patrol inspection?
No.
Who made the determination?
Yeah. Please.
The, you got more information on that than I do. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Bluebird bus, we were having issues with it over the summer with having engine problems, the bus being mechanically unsound. And I was talking with our shop in Kearney, Nebraska, and told them the issues that we were having with this bus, and they said, get it up here, let us assess it. I took it up there, they assessed it, and they come back and said this bus, after they got into the engine issue, they said the engine on this bus is about shot, it's done. And so after that, we conferred with VP Herman, and at that point we decided that the bus should not even leave their shop. And so at that point, the decision was made to leave it up there pending it till we could figure out what we were going to do. It was decided we put money into it to try to get it fixed and roadworthy to avoid spending additional money on chartering, along with having a bus that we couldn't use. The bus was fixed, brought back to Dodge City. We've used it, and now it's to the point where an offer has been made by our shop in Kearney, Nebraska, to purchase this bus so that way we can move forward in getting buses or a replacement bus that we can use that will further us along and make sure that we have reliable transportation for our teams and our students. So.
What do you mean when you say your shop, our shop?
The shop, there's not a whole lot of places in Southwest Kansas that will service coach buses. And so Coach Masters is a shop that dedicates purely to school buses and coaches. And so that's where we've been able to find that shop who does very well with coach buses. So that's where we're taking them.
What other uses besides the football team do we place this bus into service?
All of our sports teams travel with it. Some of our student groups travel in our buses as well. For instance, earlier this fall, I took Halo to a conference in Manhattan, Kansas, so that some of our student groups use it. Cosmetology also has a trip coming up where they will be using our bus. We've used some other in-town uses for when some faculty was looking at our nursing program, doing some tours. Dr. Nolte has been in on that as well. And so we use it for all of our student groups and various uses that we need them to, especially when their capacity exceeds what our vans can handle.
Cost of rental is what versus cost of ownership?
Cost of rental
was between 45 and 5,000.
Yeah. per month.
Per trip.
Per trip, yeah. And that's just to rent a bus that we wouldn't even have to use more than once.
So we have an offer from the original company to buy it back.
Correct.
Yeah. Would there be any reason to look for another offer from anybody else?
No, because this style of bus has been out of production since 2008. And so these motor coaches are hard to find parts for. They are hard to even get serviced anymore. And Coach Masters has made the offer to buy this bus back, and not very many people even want to buy them for trade-in. They're an obsolete bus. Any other
Okay,
questions?
you've heard the staff recommendation. Do you have a motion?
I would so move.
Moved by trustee Malone. Second by trustee Presley. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and now we get phase two. Let's see what we're going to do to replace this bus.
Okay, so when we found out that we needed to replace this bus, we went out in the bid process after doing some research, and under the recommendation of VP Herman, we went through the bid process, and a bid come back. We received 4 different bids from 4 different companies on buses, and the bid that we have selected is for a 2007 MCI J model 4500. And what this bus is, this is a bus that has gone through the MCI re-energized program. So this bus is a bus that has been out in a fleet before. They bought the bus, took it back in, and have done over a 210-point inspection on this bus. So they've gone through it front to back, top to bottom, upside and downside. And through this process, they have taken the opportunity to put a newly rebuilt motor in it, along with a newly rebuilt transmission that comes with a 2-year warranty. This bus currently has less than 2,000 miles on both the motor and the transmission, while the original chassis of the bus has about 550,000 miles on it. The chassis of these buses are built to go about 3 million miles. So they're built to run and do what we need it to do. We see that the serviceability of this bus will last us multiple years. And while it is not the cheapest bid that we received, we feel confident that it is the best value for what we're getting in a bus, because of the fact that it has the fewest miles on a motor and transmission, and along with the fact that multiple components of that bus have been replaced and are new. Long story short, we're almost getting a new bus without paying for a brand new bus.
Talk about the warranty.
So there is a 2-year warranty on both the motor and the transmission. We also get a 60-day warranty bumper to bumper whole coach. So if anything goes wrong with that motor coach in the first 60 days, we're completely covered.
Did you state what a new bus costs?
A new bus of this quality, this same model, is going currently on market value for about $750,000. 2018 models.
Talk about the emission engine too.
Right. So we went with the reason we went with the 2007 buses is because it is a pre-emissions motor. Pre-emissions emissions motors came in 2008, and those motors are struggling to stay with market value. They're struggling to maintain performance. Those motors often cause a lot of issues, and for anybody that knows trucks or commercial diesel motors, those motors have put a lot of companies out of business because of the issues that they're having. Hence why we've selected a pre-emissions motor and are sticking with that, because they run longer, they run better. The maintenance costs on those motors are much less than working with the emissions motors. So.
Vice President, you want to talk about the financing on this?
Yes, which brings us to the next phase. Because I didn't have I didn't realize we were gonna be purchasing a new bus this year, so I hadn't budgeted for it. But, so I asked the dealer if they could finance it, what kind of financing they provided for us. And they will provide us with 3.05 interest rate for 60 months, and the payments will run about $5,397. This is subject to the attorney. Glenn we'll move forward after Glenn meets with them and they get all of the things worked out. So we won't purchase the bus till we have his okay to do this. I did call Ransom Finance, who we do all of our finance through, and he said, Veda, that I can't beat that, because he said, time you tack on my fees, and I can't beat it. Just go with them. So that's why I'm recommending that we go with this finance. Now, how's it going to impact the budget with that $26,000 that I'm getting for the old bus? And it's going to be about $11,000, because this is in the middle of the year and we just have 8 months. So it'll impact your budget by $11,000. So I can handle that, and then I'll be able to start budgeting in the current budgets for the $60,000 a year till we pay it off.
All right, the motion that's listed is financing of the bus. Would that complete the transaction then?
Yeah, you mean as far as barring the money?
As far as
yes.
purchasing the bus, yeah.
As soon as Glenn gives me the okay to go ahead and sign for that.
I have a question. It says with graphics. Explain graphics.
All the graphics are is a decal that has Dodge City Community College on the side of the bus, our Concord logo, and then our website address on the back of the bus. We went with simpler graphics than what we currently have.
Colors?
It'll be the same color, the gold with purple overlay lettering.
We didn't want graphics like you see on the box cars.
We can do whatever you want for us.
What's the expected service life?
Expected service life can be as long as we can go. However, we need to also keep in mind that with this bus, we're putting about 30,000 miles a year on our buses. Like I said, the frames of these buses are built to run 3 million miles. Do I expect that we're going to go that far? No. I would expect us to be able to get 9 to probably 12 years out of this bus. In that time, we're probably going to have to do some work on it to maintain it and keep it up. But as far as serviceability and maintaining usability, I would expect at least 9 years out of it.
What about the tires?
We're going to have to replace tires in that time. But tires, we can normally get about 100,000 miles out of a set of drive tires on our buses. So we're looking at tires every 3-ish years.
Are the old tires any good?
On our old bus, no. That bus is going away. But the new bus I was told should have brand new tires on it.
Good.
And you might mention the DOT regs now, 50% wear, they have to be changed.
Yes. On steer tires, government regulations stipulate that steer tires have to be changed if they are less than 50% life remaining. That doesn't mean that we totally lose that tire. I can take that tire then and move it back to the rear axle, which is the tag position, and continue to use that tire. But for safety purposes, we have to maintain
Be safe.
good safe tires on our steers.
Is the contract should have new tires on it or will have?
The contract did not, the bid stipulated 80% tread life remaining or more. When I talked to the dealer who brought the bus out for us to look at and drive, he stated that the tires would be replaced and would be new.
You stipulate between new or retrips?
We only put new tires on. And I don't know that we put an exact stipulation in the bid.
Might look at that.
All right, we've heard the staff recommendation. I would move the financing of the 2000 MCIJ 45,000 motor coach bus with Key Equipment Finance, Inc., subject to council approval.
Do we have to,
Do I have a second?
do we have to approve the purchase first before we do the finance?
I thought
They're
you
two
were
separate.
just putting
Oh,
them
I'm sorry,
two
we need to
together
do
and
the
then-
purchase, okay. We'll do item E then. Do we have a motion?
I would move to accept the recommendation to purchase the motor coach bus as listed in the minutes, or the agenda, I'm sorry.
Second.
Second?
Still second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. Now we're ready for the financing then. We've had the discussion. Do we have a motion?
I would move to accept the recommendation regarding the financing set forth in the agenda through Key Equipment Finance Incorporated.
Is that subject to council approval?
Did you have
Terry?
a second? Did you have a second?
Not yet. Terry, you want to add the subject to council approval?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, subject to
Okay,
Mr. Curvis'
so that'd be
approval.
included.
Yeah, I'm
All right,
sorry.
now I'm ready for a second.
I'll second
Seconded by Harshberger. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, we'll move now to item G, leasing of cars.
So we have 8 lease cars that we have in our fleet that our faculty and staff use for transporting to various meetings, for transporting students, and currently 3 of those lease cars are coming due for renewal at the end of November. And so what you have in front of you is a recommendation that we can do 3 new lease cars through Toyota. They were the only bid that we received that was complete. Part of our stipulation was that our cars have a roadside assistance package that encompassed a set mileage standard, that they be new, and Toyota was the only company that could come through and meet all of our bid specifications. So that is why our recommendation is that we take and lease 3 new cars through Toyota. The goal is, the reason that we are staying with Toyota is we are able to do this lease for 3 years, 75,000 miles. Then the goal is that by summer of 2020, we will be taking and moving all 8 of our lease cars and doing a whole fleet lease at the same time, which should save us money once we can get this fleet all on the same trade-out rotation. Doing it in the summer so that way the budgeting can be set for on fiscal year, and then also getting a discounted fleet rate because we're trading so many cars at one time, while also having cars that aren't being utilized as much during the summertime.
Could you explain the roadside assistance?
So the Toyota roadside assistance, what we get with that is if a person has a dead battery, they can call roadside assist. If they have a flat tire, they can call that roadside assistance and get help. I know with the Toyota, if they lock their keys in their car, the cars are so technologically advanced now that they can call and get assistance and get that car unlocked. So that was the roadside assistance package it comes with it, much similar to what we used to carry with a fleet roadside assistance, but we now get it as part of the lease package.
So it's like a AAA that's
Yes.
promoted or sponsored by Toyota?
Yes, it is their own roadside assistance that is provided as part of our lease package.
But we have it on the rest of the lease cars
Yes,
too.
we carry it on our fleet vans and buses.
We have the staff recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I would so move to accept the staff's recommendation to lease the 3 cars as set forth in the
Moved by trustee Malone, seconded by trustee Harshberger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so ordered. All right, we move to item H. I think trustee Malone, you want to introduce this subject?
Yes, I'm asking the board to approve a request for an outside audit of all federal funds that are given to the college annually. And I do this because recently the Board of Regents caught note in a Globe article that we were doing an investigation, and based solely upon that, they contacted us and wanted to make sure that no federal funds were being misused. We complied with their request. According to their investigation, they believed that we had misused funds, approximately $8,700, and that was that. However, President Nolte gave us information that we got off easy, and we could easily have been tagged with over 10 times that amount, which would be over $80,000. It's difficult to unring that bell once it's said, and we have all know about the dire consequences of not adhering to federal guidelines in the use of funds. And apparently this $80,000 has, as far as I know, no connection to the Gillum investigation, but would tend to indicate that there are more holes or lack of good procedures within the college and the business office that would perhaps permit Dr. Nolte to say that. And then I'm also reminded that the feds take it a lot easier if it's a self-report. I'm reminded of the VA helicopter program. There is a criminal grand jury convened by the U.S. Attorney in Arizona with allegations that this college, in conjunction with the operator, has overcharged the VA by $8.5 million. If that is accurate, then we are at jeopardy of being exposed to that type of liability for the taxpayers. And obviously, since it's a criminal grand jury investigation, at least they are investigating whether criminal acts were conducted. A simple resolution to that, I guess I should say that from the time I got on the board, I heard whispers and rumors and concerns about the helicopter program. People were uneasy about it. A simple response to that would have was a audit to determine whether or not we were doing things correctly, and perhaps if we were, we would have caught it or nipped it in the bud, and there wouldn't be an allegation that we overcharged the federal government $8.5 million. So that's what my concern is, and that's what I think we should conduct an investigation into the Carl Perkins grants and any other grants that we have, federal money, to make sure that we were doing it right, because I know the entire board wants things to be done right, and we don't want our taxpayers to be exposed to any unnecessary investigations or grand jury subpoenas.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that our counsel make a response.
To which part? First of all, I think it's unfortunate that Mr. Malone has decided to discuss things that have previously been in executive session with regard to the pending matter in Arizona.
First of all, I want to respond to that.
That's unfortunate.
First of all, I want to respond to that.
Okay.
All right. An allegation or a statement by the president of this college that we may have violated federal laws as far as the misuse of funds has nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with an investigation that KBOR did. And secondly, President Nolte openly told President Mike Calvert in Vegas in front of me that it sounded like he was bragging about the fact that we had overcharged them and didn't get caught. So that's my
Well-
response to yours.
Well, it doesn't help for you to come back here and discuss it publicly, things that are in executive session.
I'll tell you what,
we're
I'll tell you what
we're
it doesn't
facing
help,
serious
Mr.
men.
Kurtz, just a second. I have a law license. I have a fiduciary duty to this college. And I would expect, had other people paid more attention to what was going on over the last 6 or 7 or 8 years, perhaps we wouldn't have an allegation of $8.5 million
Well,
that we
the problem
defrauded
is
the VA
that
out of.
The problem is you put the board in a position of not being able to fully explain that simple statement.
What simple
Because-
statement?
Because the board has a fiduciary responsibility to protect the college.
That's right, they
And that
do.
means that things that are in attorney-client privilege until the proper time are to remain in attorney-client
Well,
privilege. And you
when they're
understand that
said to
as an
people,
attorney.
when they're said to
Please
people.
let the council answer the
I am
question.
letting him count, and it's a conversation between he and I, all right?
So the rest of us are in this too.
Well, get in anytime you want. I must remind you that President Nolte said that to another president.
I don't know
And-
anything about.
Well, I do.
And
I
I have
do.
a statement from Dr. Calvert saying, "Good morning." I don't recall that conversation.
Well, of course he doesn't. He's your friend, and I heard it, and so.
So he's my friend?
That's right. And in fact,
Okay.
that's right.
He recalls a conversation
and if he
about you
said
in
that,
football that you were going to close football in 2 years.
and if he said that, he's a liar. And if you said that you didn't say that, you are lying.
So hearsay is allowed in court, wow. Since when?
No, I heard it with
It's
my own
hearsay.
ears.
Well, you just got
Well-
corroboration from a third party that
Oh, well,
you're
gosh,
lying.
Gary, when are you going to
Well,
go
who are we
law
supposed to
school?
believe?
Well, I don't know, because.
So the fact that trustee candidate Weil puts that on his Facebook page, everything that came out of executive session, client privilege, attorney-client privilege, he puts that out on a Facebook page. I guess we know who leaked it to him. So you're coming up with stuff that's executive session, you're telling the whole world about it?
I'm telling the whole.
And you're an attorney?
I am telling
Really?
I am telling the whole world that that particular statement had nothing to do with the Gillum investigation. It was
How'd you know?
because Dr. Nolte didn't accuse Mr. Gillum.
Once
of
again,
anything.
hearsay.
Nothing to do with it. Why did you bring it up?
Wait, just a second. Well, because he did say that we got off easy and that we should be paying over $80,000 more.
President Nolte, what do we get in Carl Perkins grant per year?
80. This last year we got 87 in 2017, and 2018 we're going to get about 84,000. Those numbers. That's the.
The conversation I remember with you is you felt that we reported it. We were exposed to possibly, in your fears, an entire year's worth of Carl Perkins. And that's the conversation I remember having with you pertaining to the $80-some thousand is what you thought K-Board could come back to us on, and felt very fortunate that he came back with these particular findings. Now that's the conversation I remember having with the president.
Well, good.
Hey, Mr. Malone, I was not bragging. If you think I was bragging, I didn't say any of this. I mean, I don't know where you come. Why are you attacking me again?
Dr. Nolte, you're the one who said it to Dr. Calvert. I was just standing there. I didn't bring it up. You did. It sounded to me like it was a braggadocio that the college got away with a $80,000 misuse of funds. That didn't have anything to do with Daddy Gilman, but may have done this with somebody else.
Well, my
That's what it sounded- but-
interpretation of that remark was that the reference was to the additional property tax and community college money that was spent by illegal trips and illegal activity by Vice President Gillum would equate to at least $80,000.
What? So you heard the remark?
That's what I heard.
I guess that corroborates that. The fact of the matter is that audit, is someone afraid of an audit? In fact, I believe that the biggest fear is not to do one. Because if they believe that we are deliberately or sloppily or by malfeasance not taking care of federal funds, like the $8.5 million allegation against this college for overcharging tuition, then, we could be in big trouble. That's why they have a criminal grand jury investigation in Arizona. This isn't just about you guys. It's about our college and the liability to the Ford County taxpayers and our integrity with the federal funds.
So thank you for grandstanding in front of the people on the camera, because that's all this was on your part. It was a grandstand. So would you sit there and so recklessly expose or talk about stuff that's only talked about in attorney-client privilege, executive session, and which you apparently must have leaked out to the public because you just did it again today. And like our counsel says, we cannot adequately talk about the actual instance because we're bound by that. And so you're putting this stuff out there in the notion and falsely leading the people out there of what really happened by putting this notion out, and we can't respond and therefore paint the correct light on it.
Well, you have responded, and I must admit...
How do we respond?
We just did.
That we can't respond.
Well, I think you have.
And you're recklessly out there trying to do damage to this school. You have done more to damage this college than anybody I can think about.
Thank you.
And you're a trustee member.
And if I remember...
And you've cost this college more money than I can count, and I think we're tabulating that as we go. With your reckless talks, I mean, you and your attorney friend that you constantly leak stuff out to? Come on, Terry.
Mr. Harshberger,
This is pathetic.
you tell me how much I've cost this college.
I will. We're
Tell me.
tabulating it. In
tell
wasted
me.
man hours?
Tell me.
Wasted... Oh, dude, I don't have that at my fingertip,
Okay.
but I'll pull it up.
All right. I am suggesting
Because you've
that there
cost
is nothing
this college
said...
more wasted man hours chasing your little red herrings, and that's all this is right now, isn't it? And you're going to single-handedly do away with the football program in 2 years? That's your quote. How are you going to single-handedly, as one person of a 7-member, soon-to-be 7-member board of trustees, going to do away with the football program?
Well, there you go. You've been deemed a loose cannon, and you...
Really?
You
I'm a loose cannon?
Quiet.
Look who's talking.
Just let me speak.
Look who's talking.
Just let me speak for a second. When did I ever say that, and do you have a record of it?
Yes.
Okay.
I got a witness right over there who just said it today.
What?
President who? We'll get him up here and tell it.
Dr. Calvert, you want
He
to
heard
call
you
him?
said it. You said it to you said it to his whole group. So I'll bet we can bring up
No, I
people.
didn't.
Didn't? All right.
I think this conversation gone far enough for the time being. Let me.
All right, just let me
make a
say
couple
this.
statements.
This
Yeah.
conversation by Dr. Nosey with Dr. Calvert was made outside of any executive session, all right? Once it is said, then I think it's a dereliction of a duty of a trustee not to follow up. If somebody on this board, with all your concerns about the helicopter program that you have touted and whispered and been concerned about, had done anything, and I mean anything, asking for an audit when it started, there wouldn't be a criminal grand jury investigation. There wouldn't be an allegation that we, our taxpayers, owe the VA $8.5 million. So I am not going to apologize for asking for the federal government to come in here and see if we're spending money, but it seems to me, misusing money, it seems to me that there are problems within the business office. They've never been taken care of, and we ought to get serious about coming in compliance with federal law.
I would just remind the audience that the college is by law required to have an independent fiscal audit every year. And we have had. We have a fiscal audit. The auditors are certified by the state. They come in and they follow the federal guidelines for audit of federal funds. If you look in your annual audit, you will see there are sections in the annual audit that deals with all of the federal funds that the college receives every year since it's been going on, well, since community colleges were formed. So read the report. The college gets a clear audit every year. If there are deficiencies in the procedures, they are so listed, and the corrective action that the college is going to take to correct that deficiency is also listed in the audit. So you need to read the audit reports, and they are available. They're public documents. Anyone can read the audit report.
And Morris, I just have one question, and you know, audits are audits. Why didn't the auditor then catch the problems that we found in the Gillum investigation.
Well, the problem in the Gillum investigation is when you have a vice president and also coordinators and people below them that conspire to defraud the college, it's very easy for them to do that.
Well, I don't know. Wait just a second.
Because when you have a request for an expenditure, when you get expenditures, purchase orders that deliver this to my home address, that's ridiculous.
Well, I'm not commenting on that. I'm commenting on the fact
when you get this environment.
Well, just a second.
When you get this environment or this concept within the college, it's very easy for it to increase, and every year it gets a little easier to do a little more defrauding, and we'll do a little more here.
I agree with you.
All you have to do is read the Glenning report. It's all right.
I agree with you, Morris, that when you don't have proper checks and balances and procedures in place, and I fear that we don't, because we wouldn't have had the, I guess, perhaps the ease about the allegations that there was misuse of these funds.
There was what?
I said if we had the proper checks and balances in place, then we wouldn't probably had the investigation and the ease at which apparently these allegations or these misuse was carried out. All right. If it's and this reaches only one person innocent, so why didn't the auditor catch that? And my fear is that because we don't have checks and balances in place, and that people were probably protecting that.
Yeah, well, the reason it happened is because we had people under Vice President Danny Gillum who were complacent with this, and they cooperated, and the auditor, there's no way the auditor would catch that. Because
I
the
guess
auditor
it's
said
who
initiated the request, who approved it, who authorized the final payment.
Morris,
But
I'm
you can't
saying
expect an accounts
that it had to
payable
be
clerk
obvious
to
to
monitor a
others.
vice president.
It had to be obvious to others in the business office that didn't reach the board. It may have reached the administration. It didn't reach the board, and if it did reach the board, then the board should have done something.
But if you
about
had
it.
somebody who's complacent in the business office, it had never reached the board.
Well, that's what we need to
That's what
find out.
happened.
That's what we're finding out with the grand jury. Are you insinuating there were other people that you are accusing?
I'm not accusing anybody. I'm saying that the fact of the matter is there is an allegation made that there's probably 10 times the amount of misuse of the Carl Perkins funds. And that, doesn't it seem odd to you that the moment that Mr. Gillum resigns from this college, the next month the auditor finds what he couldn't find for the last 8 years? It seems odd to me. I think other people knew about it and they hid it.
I'm depending on
They
the grand
did.
jury to give us the answers we need.
Well, I think we beat this horse to death. We have a recommendation for an action item, which is a request for an outside audit of federal funds. Is there a motion?
That's my motion.
Is there a second? Hearing none, the matter died for lack of a second. No unfinished business. We have new business. Kansas Attorney General response letter to the Kansas Open Meeting Act complaint. Mr. Curbs.
Okay. I mailed to the board a memo on October the 16th setting out information that we have received a response from the Attorney General to a complaint that Mr. Malone filed back in October of 2016. Just to refresh your memories, the complaint is that the board had violated the Kansas Open Meetings Act when it met on August the 9th of 2016. And that meeting had to do with an executive session to address the retail matter, for lack of a better term. On August 9th of 2016, the board went into executive session to discuss confidential data relating to the financial affairs or trade secrets of a corporation. The board went into that executive session at the request of the corporation that was taking a look at this project, and came out of the executive session without taking any action, if I recall correctly. Mr. Malone felt that that was a violation of the Open Meetings Act by going into executive session for that particular conversation. And then there was a second allegation that the trustees had violated the Open Meetings Act when trustees met with representatives of that company, DP Properties. Those meetings occurred on October the 25th and 26th. They were small group discussions, and Mr. Malone felt that that was a violation of the Open Meetings Act as well. Well, a year later, we've received the Attorney General's decision in the matter with regard to the August 9th, 2016 meeting. The Attorney General found that the subject matter was proper for executive session, that the board went into that executive session in good faith, that there was no violation of the Open Meetings Act by going into that executive session, and concluded that no formal enforcement action is warranted, and that part of the complaint is closed. With regard to the October 25 and 26 gatherings, the Attorney General goes through the process of determining what a meeting is, and determined that, again, there was no violation because the board was not, there was no majority of the board present for those discussions. There was no evidence that the people who met on the 25th and the 26th shared information, and concluded that basically there was no serial communications, in other words, communications from one to another to try to avoid any kind of an open meetings violation or an open meeting, and therefore they found that that portion of the complaint was also, that there was no violation by the board. So that was good, in the sense that I think we learned a lot through that process. That's always been a difficult exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act. What does fall properly within that particular exception? And I think it's good to get this direction from the Attorney General's office in terms of what the board did was proper. However, in responding to the complaint, we acknowledged, the board acknowledged, that we were probably not complying with the statute when we go into executive session, that our motions were not including all of the things that need to be included in the motion. And if you look back at the minutes, I think what we tended to do is get a little sloppy, and we acknowledged that to the Attorney General's office when we responded. They agreed that the motions were not meeting the statutory requirements. They expressed the appreciation of the board acknowledging it and changing its practices, which this board has changed those practices, and so they found that to be a technical violation of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. There's three things that the Attorney General is requesting the board do. One, to establish and use a checklist or other similar protocol process to ensure the board meets the statutory elements for recessing into executive session each time it calls for a session. And I think you probably understand what we've done is that when the board is going to have an executive session, Carla and I work together to prepare a recommendation to make sure that that motion that the board is going to make includes all the statutory requirements. So that's how we've tried to address that. They're also asking that we update our policy, the Board of Trustees policy, with regard to executive session. And they've also requested that the board participate in 1 hour of Kansas Open Meetings Act training within the next 60 days. So I think overall some important questions were answered. And I think it was good that we found out that these issues that were raised were addressed, and that the board had not violated the law with regard to those meetings, and that the board can make improvement with regard to how it handles executive sessions in the future. So, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to try to answer them.
Do we have a tentative schedule for getting that done by November 10th?
Well, I've been in touch with Lisa Mendoza, who's the Assistant Attorney General who wrote this, and so we're communicating about how to get this 1 hour of time put together. So the answer is probably not by November 10th.
I was going to ask, can we ask for the extension?
So in reality, we were not in violation of the Open Meetings Act. However,
We were not in violation.
the technicality of how we phrase the motion to go into executive session is where the deficiency occurred.
Right. There was no violation found in
No
the August
violation
meeting
found, yeah.
or the October gatherings. But
Yeah.
our
That's an important distinction.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I do. I find it truly astonishing that if Trustee Malone here has a problem with the procedure, that he just couldn't take it up with you or legal counsel about how to properly go about the procedure, instead of bringing in the state attorney general on this. And I don't know how many legal hours that Mr. Curbs had to put into this. This is the money you cost us.
And the staff.
And the staff as well for records. And this is just one of many tactics that you do that I was alluding to earlier of what you cost us. If you have a problem with how they're doing their executive sessions, by all means, you're an attorney, advise them, tell them, unless you're here to do damage. That's the only take I can come up with.
Well, thank you, Gary. I
Yes,
appreciate that, because you've been around so long and you know me so well.
I'm learning quickly.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
Yes, I was concerned about the subject matter of the meeting. I thought it was inappropriate. And if you'll learn that if you do that, and if you can't get any resolution of that, and you don't want it to repeat it, you ask the county attorney to investigate it. The county attorney turned it over to the attorney general because of conflicts of interest, and it took them a year to come up with their deal. And like I said, we learned a lot. I hope you have.
Yeah, I learned you're pretty pathetic is what I learned.
Cost the taxpayers.
Jeez.
About 4,000 is what I think.
About
Okay, but-
$4,000.
All right, let's move on. The
And a
president.
suggestion probably would have been sufficient. Thank you. As a taxpayer, thank you.
And
I appreciate that.
I want to
Wasted funds.
Yeah, I want
Right there.
I want to
All right,
point
let's-
out-
let's-
just a second.
let's-
I want to respond to that. A man that just voted to sell $300,000 of our land for $550. Gary, you are
Seriously?
a financial genius.
Seriously? Oh, you want to get into that?
Yeah, I thought that would be a good idea.
And we only.
Well, I believe that was your idea, Terry Malone.
And we'll only
Here's an
gain
email
about.
from you
And we'll only
suggesting
gain.
we do that.
And we'll only gain a little over $1
Right
million
here.
in property tax revenue.
I do see
as
the
a result of
potential.
that
This is a quote
activity.
from an email from Mr. Malone. I do see the potential for the development of the south part of the campus from the south parking lot to the water tower area and west of that area. Developers could possibly purchase the land that the church owns as frontage along 14th. It is my understanding that Sewell Street will be extending west, so that would be helpful for the developer of that area.
Yeah,
That was your idea.
Just a minute, Gary.
The sale of that property was your
That
idea.
was in
enough.
response to a settlement offer that came from the back door of the city.
And they
Just
took
a
you
sec-
up on your idea.
Wait a minute.
So thank you.
No, the idea was already there. Let me finish.
Hey, why don't you got to have your argument after the meeting?
Well, he had to
Let's
have
see.
his argument, so I
Well,
should. I
You
will-
brought that sale
I think
up.
it's even.
In your own words,
He
you
just-
recommended selling.
I didn't
In your
recommend.
own words.
No, I didn't. I
Really?
said-
You want me to read it to you again?
Oh, be quiet for a second.
I'll read it
will
to you again.
Right.
me
I
to
didn't
read it to you?
recommend selling $300,000 worth of land for $500.
We have.
I do see the potential.
Yes,
We can come back.
if they would erase the rest of the campus off of
And they
the-
did.
Yes, they did,
I
at my
move for
request.
recess for 10 minutes.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're on recess.
Okay.
RSVP.
Okay, we call the meeting back to order. Regarding the item D1A on the Attorney General's response, the President and Council will come back with recommendation on how we comply with the Attorney General request.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make that clear for the viewing public. We now move to the consent agenda. Normally, we don't have discussion on the consent agenda, but I think Trustee Hampton has a question she wanted.
Mr. Chairman, I was remiss in not asking for this when we approved the agenda, but I did want to ask for some clarifications about the office space for the child and adult care food program.
Okay.
Are you ready for that now?
I'm ready for it, yeah.
Okay.
We are continuing to explore that possibility, and hopefully if we get where area mental health was, campus building, if we get that back to us, we have done an appraisal on those, and there would be, we want to bring RSVP back on campus, the child care back on campus. We could also utilize that space for storage. We need storage on campus. We pay about $12,000 a year for storage off campus. So we're still exploring that, and we have crews, we have the, what's the program, the trade program, that could go in, and the roofs are good on that building. So there's all sorts of possibilities in that area. And we're continuing to try to get those programs back on campus. But we just haven't, identified places to move those programs.
Well, that answers my questions, and I certainly would hope that the county would be amenable to continued discussion about that.
You would think they would, especially since the college has been paying all the utilities on that facility for 40 years that the county has owned it. So it's the only right thing to do, quite frankly.
They're going to bring us into a workshop. They told us.
All right, I entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I move.
Moved by Hampton.
Second.
Second by Presley. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so ordered. Okay, we're now ready for item 10, executive session. Mr. Curbs, do you have a recommendation for the executive session that will comply with the Attorney General?
I'll make my best attempt. I recommend the board recess into executive session to discuss negotiations with the Professional Relations Committee of the Dodge City Community College Faculty Association for the 2017-2018 school year contract pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4319B3. The open meeting to resume in this location at 8:05 p.m. In addition to the trustees, the president, the college attorney, Dean Osmus, Vice President John, Vice President Herman, and Dean Hawarda should be included in the executive session.
You heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I move.
Moved by Hampton.
I'll second.
Second by Harshberger. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll be in executive session till 8:05. Thank you. Open session. There is no action to be taken after the executive session. I'd entertain a motion for adjournment. Moved by Harshberger. Second by Presley. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, and we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you much.